Hey Heidi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a long time coming. You
I
know,
know.
and
It's
you've
been a
been
couple years.
I know. You know what? I always do my research too on like how I try to figure out how Eric discovered the artist. So that was a question that I was going to ask you. And before you answer that question, I wanted to show you a piece of history here that I discovered. I got to share my screen to show you. But I went back. I was telling, I've been going for like an hour here for a while, been talking with people that have been following along. And I was talking about how in the early days, Eric was very active in a Discord group that he set up for the game.
Okay.
And I went back and looked at the old dialogue because I remembered that one of the fans had recommended you for the project in the Discord.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I went back. Yeah, so maybe you already knew this, but I wanted to give credit to this guy. The guy's name is Ovaro, and oh, it's cut off in that one. Let me go back one. So all the way back to it was January 26th, 2022, and he says, Eric, not sure if you're looking for artists for future sets, but he said he found your site. Basically, he was really impressed with your work, and then Eric responded here. It's kind of funny. He responded right away. And he was, like I say, he was very active early on before he got busy with the project. But he said, "Great find. I sent an email to her to see if she can take on some sorcery work. This type of traditional surreal style fits really well."
Oh,
So there you
wow.
have it.
So I'm not sure if that was him because somebody purchased a painting of mine, and I think he lived in Germany. And
Oh,
he's the one that told me about the project, and he suggested that I reach out to Eric. So I'm not sure
oh, okay,
how all of this happened. Like maybe somebody recommended me, or maybe I think Eric knew about me, and then I approached Eric because another fan suggested that I do that.
gotcha.
So I'm
Yeah,
not sure like what the exact origin of this was. It was just a while ago. Like I mean, like a couple
yeah,
years ago,
right. Yeah, it's
and
been several
lots
years.
happened since then. So I kind of forget.
Yeah, it's so exciting because, like, I know you were so, like, from what I understand, he allowed you to show little snippets of some of your artwork. Is that right on your social media? A couple years back.
Yeah, I think I showed a couple thumbnails, like little teasers, but not
Yep.
too many because at that point I was like, hey, I'm not supposed to show anything. And then I just
Yeah.
decided I'm not going to show anything.
Okay. Yeah. So,
Anyway,
like a lot of us, like myself, I've always been super into the art aspect of the project. So when we see things like that, we start making connections and we're like, wow, this is probably a new artist for sorcery. So it generated a
okay.
lot of buzz. And Eric actually announced that you were commissioning for the project all the way back in July 2022. So we've known for a
Okay.
while, but we only saw your first card a few days ago
Oh,
on
I
one of the.
see. Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that he told people that I was one of the artists. I mean, I know like
Yeah.
some people had approached me, and I was like, they said, "Are you one of the artists? Is it true?" And I said, "Yes."
Yep.
And anyway, yeah,
That's why,
that's
yeah.
neat.
So that's really great. And I know you've had a, very extensive career. You have a special celebration coming up of your art career. Do you want to mention what
Yeah.
that
So
is?
I have a 50-year retrospective coming up on September 19th at a gallery in Montreal, Quebec called Jeannot Gallery.
Okay.
And it's work that I've done for the last 50 years. And I'm 53. So it's going to show work that I did when I was 3 years old and up.
Oh wow.
So like there's a little bit of it that's gonna be a little it's kind of humoristic. It's a bit of a like tongue in cheek sort of joke. But at the same
Yes.
time it really is relevant to my career because I started off pretty early. Like I developed my signature style when I was about 16 years old and then
Oh wow.
works that I did from then on are kind of a bit more typical of what I do. Although back in the day I was painting mostly robots, like watercolor robots with a white
Hmm.
background, and then
Mm-hmm.
it shows how they got more complex and how they just kind of developed into something a little bit more surrealist and symbolist rather than just science fiction, like sci-fi looking.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect then, because you already told us a little bit about your background. So you've been into art your entire life, literally, since you were three
Yeah,
years old. So you've
yeah.
always envisioned this as your career path and something
Not
you
at
wanted to do.
all. My
No?
mom actually is an artist, and when I was first able to hold a pencil, so I was drawing before the age of 3. I just don't have
Oh.
those drawings available anymore. I don't know what happened to them,
Oh.
but she kept all my work, and she's the one that really encouraged me to get into art in the first. Well, she's the one who encouraged me as a child to pursue art. Like most children do it naturally anyway, but I was lucky
Sure.
enough that my mom was an artist, so she really went
Yeah.
like you know, like as far as she could to getting me and my brother to do little art projects and stuff. And
That's great.
it's only when I was in my early 20s, I think I was 21, and I was in the Yukon, in
Mm.
Dawson City, Yukon, and I was a waitress for a couple of weeks. And I had a really hard time with the head waitress there, who was about 15 years older than me. And she just really
Uh,
didn't like me, so she gave me the hardest time in the world. And then I left. I just went into the Mackenzie Mountains and went hiking and did a lot of thinking. And then I decided I can't work for anybody else because there's too much
yeah.
politics and
Mm.
jealousy or whatever it is that drives people to act in certain ways. And then
Sure.
that's what made me decide to become an artist. But like I had already
Okay.
had this history of taking art lessons growing up and having my mother as an artist.
Yeah.
So, but
That's
I
great.
never thought I would go into art. It just didn't seem like a viable career path.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I did is at 21 or 22, I started exhibiting in a little local art association that my mom was part of also. And
Mm-hmm.
during one of those exhibits, I was exhibiting my watercolor robots alongside like flower paintings and landscape paintings. So I kind of stood out like a sore thumb. And somebody
Mm.
came up to me and said that technically I was very good, and that I should go into commercial illustration and that I could make a lot of
Mm.
money doing that. And then I thought,
Mm-hmm.
well, here's a way of making a living then. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't make like a ton of money because at that point the industry was kind of tailing off, and
Okay.
but I did do it for about 10 years.
Okay.
And then I ended up working with the Cirque du Soleil, and like I ended
Mm.
up painting a few art cars for Infinity Taiwan and
Yep.
Infinity
I
Canada.
remember from our interview. So this was like in
Yeah,
the 90s or so you're referring to?
that was in the Cirque du Soleil was the 99, and then the
Okay.
art cars were like 10 years later.
Okay.
10 and 11 years later. And then I did all kinds of
Mm.
projects in between for company, like, I did something for, what was it? The NFL, National Football League. But they used my concept and they got another artist to do the color version of my concept, like little things like that. And then
Yeah.
bigger things too, like, for yogurt companies like Dannon Yogurt doing their yogurt labels, and
Okay.
working for the Montreal Insectarium, and like a whole ton of different, like 10 years of basically client
Gotcha.
work
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So,
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, every there's a broad range of artists and sorcery, a real like a lot of stylistic diversity, but even a lot of different like career paths. A lot are self-taught, some are formally trained, and some
yeah.
are from TCG. Some have never done a TCG at all. Is this your first like card game type
It's my
project?
first card game. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's
it's
pretty different.
exciting. Like, it's very interesting to see that there's a fan base, and then all the momentum that it builds.
Yep.
It's not something you usually see in illustration, because usually you're working with an art director and then you do your art piece and you give it to them, and then they just say thank you very much and see you
Mm-hmm.
later. Except with the Cirque du Soleil, that was a little bit more ongoing, but usually it
Okay.
was just sort of something that was kind of more cut and dry, and then you would get waved off, and then like
Mm.
all the magic would happen behind your back, behind the
Uh-huh.
scenes, and then they would come up with this big ad. You might
Yep.
see it like on a billboard or a bus or something,
Yeah.
which is kind of
Yeah,
cool.
that's
But
the commercial aspect. Like the commercial industry of art is pretty interesting. There's another artist, Asi Haikala, who does a lot of like commercial type art. So it's interesting. Like Eric
okay,
took some people from that genre, others from heavy metal covers, and
okay.
other TCGs, and so I don't know how much you know about the TCG. Are you like a gamer on any level, or are you
Not
not really into
really.
that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like this game Magic the Gathering that was huge in the 90s that really paved the way for fantasy art for cards. So it's now like a
Okay.
really big industry. And, as you know, like in modern times now, a lot of people are going to digital, especially in the card gaming industry. They do digital commissioning because it's quick and easy to make changes. So
Yeah.
sorcery is really different in that it's all hand painted traditional, and Eric's really committed to that. So
I think
a
it's
lot of people,
excellent.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people are excited about that. So, and your
Yeah.
style, so your style is great. Like, how did you? Are there any things you had to do to adapt your style for the game use case, or did you
Well,
have a
at
lot of
first
freedom?
I wasn't sure what Eric wanted. Like, I think the very first image I did was not, it was like, I mean, you could consider it like it was my style, where in that it would be an element that you would find in a painting of mine. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of, I can't really talk about it because it hasn't been revealed yet.
Okay.
But like, well, anyway, I can say that much about it at least. But then for the other, like I started off just being a little bit more straightforward, like doing kind of straightforward illustration. And then he
Mm.
finally said, look, get your own style in there and like,
Yeah. Great.
really show people what you do and stuff.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, like this is great. And then I'm gonna start showcasing my own personal style of art in these illustrations
Oh.
that I'm doing.
Great. So we saw your Sir Tristan. Unfortunately, like, it's early. We'll have to talk again once they're all revealed after October
Yeah,
4th. But and we'll see you in Vegas. So by then
yeah.
you'll be able to show all your stuff.
There you go.
Um, so you're saying like you started with like trying to do a specific concept for the game, but then you had a little more freedom to kind of fall back on
Yeah, I
the way
had a
you
bit more
traditionally think.
freedom, like
Yeah.
it was very nice to hear that because often one big problem I had when I was a commercial illustrator is nobody knew what to do with my style.
Mm.
Except like the Cirque du Soleil knew because they were like, "This is great,"
Yeah.
it's super weird and fantastical and everything. So this was really nice to have an opportunity to apply the work to something, other than a painting, because it's
Hmm.
considered applied arts. Like you could say commercial art or applied arts, I guess, like is another
Okay.
way of saying it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was just really nice that I had the freedom to do that. It's a little bit like editorial illustration. In editorial illustration, like book covers and magazine covers and stuff, you have a lot more freedom to do what you want and to have to express yourself, like using your own personal voice.
Okay.
And you don't have like an art director sort of looming over your shoulder telling you do this, do that, change this or whatever.
Hmm.
So it was very nice. Like I was really free to do whatever I wanted to do, and Eric wasn't micromanaging it. Like he wasn't,
Hmm.
playing art director or anything.
Yeah.
It's just the closest thing he came to doing that was to say be yourself. Like be as much
Great.
yourself as you want to be. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. That's why the game's so great. Like the art project aspect of the game. I call it the game, but it's like to me, it's like a real special art project because it's like a renaissance of art and a throwback to the
yeah,
original hand painted. And he took that approach with all the artists, so their own styles really shine through.
that's
And so
really
like
good.
I noticed in yours, like you do. So you mentioned like you started with the robot art, and you have like these technological or like gear elements in a lot of your pieces that I've noticed. Is that how you kind of work that into your? That's something that's followed you through your career, or
Oh
are you
yeah, it's
interested in
followed me
technology?
through.
Like, what is it with robots that?
So I started with a frog. It was a robotic frog
Okay.
that when I was 16 years old. And then I was really into sci-fi movies, and the biggest movie that impacted me
Mm.
was Terminator. And I was like, look at the
Yeah.
skeleton. And I was really good in biology. I had like a 99 average in biology in high school.
Okay.
So I just sort of combined this interest in biology along with my technical skills in art. And then I started painting more robots because they were, you can, and like what I would do is I would design the robot to match sort of the anatomy of the animal of the person that I was depicting.
Okay.
And this is how it all started. So I would paint like a robotic bunny or like a robot, like I said, a frog. I did a gorilla at some point made out of elements and objects that I found throughout
Hmm.
the class that I was taking. Because I took 10 years of art classes for
Okay.
kids from
Wow.
the age of 8 years old to 18 years old. And that kind of really sort of kept my art activities going more fully. And then that's what allowed me to develop my style. Because like the art teacher, she would give us projects to do, and I just kept painting robots. And she didn't stop
Yeah.
me. She just said, "Go ahead and keep painting." Her name is Renata Heidersdorf. There's a lot of people locally that know her. She's like a household name.
Okay. Are
Yeah,
you
where I
from
live.
Montreal? You mentioned or
Yeah, I'm
Quebec?
from Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great. So the someone was asking like the in the Sir Tristan piece, like it's I think you said you had mentioned in your Chase wrote up an article that the company revealed and it talked about how you did it like after a family member, but like the
yeah.
headgear stuff that was like around the head figure, what kind of inspired that?
Well, it was because I was trying to figure out. I didn't want to paint a robot that would just sort of look too much like I don't know, like a robot, like an aggressive warrior type. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I wanted, or just something that was too unnatural or too like inhuman. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, I had done a painting of Mercury one time because I like Greek mythology and I incorporate that into
Mm-hmm.
my work often. And so this was just a nude figure, like a male nude figure. And I just decided to focus on the headdress. And I thought I'm going to take all this like technology and all these um, mechanical components and I'm going to sort of make an exoskeleton out of it instead of making the
Mm-hmm.
body made up of all of these things instead. And
Gotcha.
that way the character can kind of retain its humanity and then
Mm-hmm.
still have this kind of biomechanical looking or not like yeah like I guess biomechanical kind of looking thing
Mm-hmm.
happening. So that's kind of what I
Yeah.
was doing with Tristan, Sir
Okay.
Tristan.
Yeah, it's great because
Yeah.
that's how you incorporate your style and still preserve, because it's kind of like specifically thematic, right, for Arthurian lore.
Yeah.
Um, when you heard of the, so like when you first started commissioning for the project, did you know that it was specifically for Arthurian Legends? And you started, I mean,
No.
obviously, oh no, you didn't.
I had no
Well, what? So
idea.
for Sir Tristan though, did you know that that would even be Sir Tristan, or did that title come later? I'm wondering.
I knew that it would be Sir Tristan. Like I had the
Okay.
titles, I guess, of the characters, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know what it all meant, like in the context of the game. So I
Okay.
knew Sir Tristan is, Arthurian, I guess you could say, but
Yeah.
I had no idea that this was like, a particular series that he was going to release. Like
Mm-hmm.
I got very little information, which is probably, I don't know if it's for the best. I think it was for the best, but he just
Mm-hmm.
kind of was very straightforward. He's very easy to work with. Like he just sort of
Yeah.
gave me like a drop down list of concepts that I needed to do, like images that I needed to paint, and then he's like, "Go for it," you know.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting. The reason why I ask is because we that's a question that Eric's been asked a lot of times, and we've seen like I was just opening a sample pack, which was like one these early like test production cards that came before the first set came out. So there's a lot
okay,
of development change, and a lot of the card titles ended up being different in alpha. So sometimes he would get an
uh,
illustration back from the artist, and it seems like he would tailor it to fit like the way the card's supposed to work in the game. So there
uh,
is some give and take between the design team and the artists. So that's pretty interesting. A bunch of
okay.
people are asking in the chat here. A few people asked, "What artists inspired your work or your style?" Are
Oh
there certain
wow.
artists?
Yeah, definitely. So my youngest first inspiration that I can remember was probably Hijami Soriyama. So he's a
Okay.
Japanese illustrator who did like chrome robots, airbrushed robots of women mostly. And now he's still doing work. I think he does work that's a little bit different than what I had seen growing up, which is natural because artists do evolve. And
Hmm.
then there was Salvador Dali. So these are
Okay.
like from books that my mom had lying around. And
Yeah.
then I would look at these, and she had a book on airbrushing, I remember. And it was Hijami Soriyama that was the one that really jumped out as the airbrush artist, I remember.
Did
Um,
did you do airbrushing on the car, like the Infinity project that you
oh,
mentioned? Was
yeah.
that airbrush? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I
So I did a
figured.
lot
Yeah.
of
So you
airbrush.
learned that skill too. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like a lot of my paintings were airbrushed in the 90s. So I would
Okay.
do these really super detailed, intricate looking robots and I don't know, illustrations and paintings, and I would use airbrushing. And I
Yeah.
remember I showed my work at the McAllen International Museum of Art and Science back in 1997. And there was
Hmm.
a discussion panel when I was there, and they were kind of, some people were giving me a really hard time to tell me, like trying to tell me that illustration is not art. And I was defending it, saying, yes, it is art, and
Yeah.
then we had this big debate on like whether or not it was really art and whether airbrushing was like a legitimate medium that you could use in art and
Really.
stuff. So yeah,
That's strange. I
yeah,
mean, there's like, I think it would be hard to argue that most things are not art, like some form of artistic expression in some way.
yeah,
So to challenge
and
something that seems like it clearly is ironic.
yeah.
But
So I don't know. It was like an art history purist or something, I guess,
okay,
that I was up against.
that's
And, and
funny.
I'm sort of like aside from the art lessons that I took growing up, I am self-taught, so I didn't study art academically.
Hmm.
So it was hard to. I mean, all I could do is talk about my own experience, my own frame of reference, and then
Yep.
just stand up and defend it as much as I could. Anyway,
That's funny. Yeah, there's a few
yeah.
artists in sorcery that are really like masters of airbrush technique, like Ed Bear Jr.
Okay.
And Rodney Matthews. You might know he's a pretty legendary artist. So
Okay.
it just looks so impressive because it's so like clean looking. When you paint
Yeah.
with that, it really enhances it. I think it's tremendous.
Yeah. It
So.
does enhance it. And it's too bad, like a lot of computer illustration or like computer work came along and took
Hmm.
away what the airbrush artists were able to achieve.
Hmm.
And then I'm just thinking of the industry in illustration and when it dried up, a lot of it was because of that. And I guess that's what happens with the evolution of technology. You see it with AI now and
Yeah.
the threat that AI poses.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, for sure. Did you ever get into digital art at all, or have you always been purely
well, I
traditional?
do work with Photoshop, and I was trained in
Okay.
Photoshop when I was around 23, 24 years old because I worked on a Molson Dry or like a, yeah, Molson Dry commercial, a
Oh.
beer commercial.
Yep.
And they trained me on like one of the early versions of Photoshop. So I was supposed to
Hmm.
because I showed them some photorealism illustration that I had done with airbrushing. And then they said, "Oh, she'd be perfect for this job." So I had to transform a Jamaican beach with beach umbrellas into a pristine beach scene out of, I think, Indonesia or Thailand or someplace like that.
Hmm.
With like volcanic mountains in the back and minus all the beach umbrellas,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Anyway, and then
Wow,
I
sounds
just
beautiful.
continued using Photoshop in my work to mostly to do a mock up. So I do
Hmm.
mock-ups, and then I prepare the preliminary of my painting using Photoshop, and then or I could go to a let me see, like I could have like, because I have to print it out on paper, and then I print it out on 8 by 10 size papers, like I do an enlargement in Photoshop, and then I print it out
Hmm.
like a puzzle in 8 by 10 size pieces, and then I tape them all together, and then I can make a painting transfer, which is actually a very old technique from the Renaissance.
Hmm.
So I'm using like modern technology and Renaissance techniques all at the same time.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's awesome. Well, we're really excited for you to be finally announced as part of the project. So it sounds like you've done several pieces. I think there was like maybe 4 or 5 little snips, so we have an idea of some of the concepts. But it's
Okay.
by the time you come to Vegas, it'll all be out there. The game's supposed to
Yeah.
release on October 4th. There's a big event in Germany that's happening that the
Okay.
company's going to. Some of the company employees will be in Vegas. We're hoping Eric will come. It's
Okay.
unconfirmed so far, but maybe you'll get a chance to meet him finally.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, so it'll be a whole new world, like the TCG type fans. There's a lot of gamers, but in Sorcery, there's a
Okay.
lot of people that are art enthusiasts, or they're like kind of transforming into like having a real appreciation for the art. So a lot
Yeah.
of
Very
people will be
good.
excited to see you. You could sign cards, bring. Do you plan on
Sure.
bringing prints or any like originals or anything like that? I know it's hard to travel because you got to fly in internationally,
Yeah.
but some
Maybe
prints are a great
Prince.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah. Prints are a good idea.
there's a good market for prints. People will definitely come to your table to chat with you and get cards signed. You charge for
Okay.
signatures. So yeah, it'll
Okay.
be a great time.
Great.
We'll hang out and have a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I was so happy. Like I told you, like I was so impressed. Within an hour, you're like, "Yep, I'm coming to Vegas."
Yeah.
I was like really impressed. You were able to make a decision that
I
quickly,
know,
and that you
eh?
were that excited about it.
Yeah.
So that's a real
Yeah.
treat for all of us.
Yeah.
Is there
For me
anything else
too.
you wanted to share with the fans?
Well, just that I really appreciate their appreciation of my work.
Yeah.
Like I really do because I work in a bubble. Like I'm alone right now. I'm in my studio space, and this
Okay.
is about what I. Well, you can't see anything, I guess, because I'm on my phone. So there's like
Mm-hmm.
different.
I see your
Anyway,
visuals.
whatever, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Cool.
Yeah, but like I don't hear a lot, so it's pretty silent other than the music that
Mm.
I have going on. So to get feedback from people is just really high, like very much appreciated,
Yeah.
and
There.
yeah, just makes
You'll
me
s-
feel really good.
you'll see at the event we're expecting at least a few hundred people, so it'll be a good vibrant atmosphere for 3 days, and we'll try to
Okay,
think of some fun things we could do. We could do a little mini interviews like this and stuff too. But
sure.
yeah, people are like super excited about the artist, so you're in for like a wild ride on this one. You'll definitely get positive feedback. You're gonna be like a celebrity.
Oh, very nice.
So
Okay,
it'll be great. Yeah, and I really appreciate you coming on today. It was a lot of fun. The reveal was really exciting. The reception was great to Sir
okay,
Tristan, and people are really excited to see more. So we can't wait.
okay. Great.
So,
I'm happy to hear that.
yep. All right. Thanks. We'll see you in a few months then. I really appreciate
Okay.
it.
Sounds good.
All right. Take
Okay.
care.
Take care.
Yeah. All right, guys. That was cool. Our first introduction to Heidi. She seems awesome. That was the first time that I've talked to her in person, or like, over video. Not quite in person, but yeah. So like when Eric revealed her, like we were saying in the interview, they introduced her in July 2022 because there were these snippets coming out on her social media, and you should go follow Heidi on Instagram. And I know she's on Instagram. I forget if she has a Facebook page or not. She seems like she's not on Facebook quite as much. Definitely Instagram, though. She's always posting on there. She has like a beautiful variety of work. Her style is just incredible. And if you go to HeidiTaillefer.com, you could find a vast array of all her work. I'm going to pull back up the my screen here. And if you go to collectorarthouse.com, definitely go to the interviews and articles page. So when those snippets came out, the what happened was I reached out to her immediately. Like I told you, I created this page, guys, because I wanted to connect with the artists. I wanted to know their story, and I wanted to share that with the fan base of Sorcery. All the fans that are like-minded like myself and are really enthused and excited about the art and want to meet the artists as people, in addition to their artworks. How do they come up with these concepts? Where does the storytelling come from? Like all those fun things that make us love art, right? So I did an interview with Eric and like so many artists. If you go to this interviews and articles page, collectorarthouse.com, and I did this interview with Heidi, you see, on July 26, 2022. So right after it was announced, I reached out to her and I was like, wow, this is great that you were, introduced to Sorcery. Alvaro, again, in the Discord, this guy in Germany, discovered Heidi, was really impressed with their website, and recommended her to Eric. Eric was impressed. It sounds like, as Heidi just told us, a fan encouraged her to reach out to Eric, and she did, and they connected, and here we are. She's done several pieces for Sorcery, and we've seen the first so far. But there's this great interview. You see like her great variety of artwork. This one really reminded me of the Sir Tristan concept, as she was just talking about. She wanted to preserve the human form of Sir Tristan, but also introduce that kind of technological, mechanical, robotic aspect of it. So she did that with the headgear on Sir Tristan. Here's the Infinity Car airbrush piece that she was talking about. You see how incredible her style is, so vibrant. Airbrushing just looks so polished and amazing. Look at all the mechanical aspects of it. Just like the great Severin Pinyu, a lot of these artists with the biomechanical influence. Dan's talking about the Keith era mechanism, super iconic time stop, hopefully coming up in the future. So it's really great. We have that aspect and that influence both from Severin and from Heidi for this game. But yeah, this is a great interview. Look how detailed and beautiful these pieces are. I'm really excited to hear her say. The big revelation, the big takeaway that I take from the interview we just did with her is that her style, even for Sorcery, had an evolution to it, right? So first she did stuff like the way she thought maybe Eric wanted it, the way maybe she thought it should be for a card game, being her first card game. But then she expanded that and broadened that into her own style. And Eric said, like, hey, be true to your own style. So maybe we'll see artwork like this, like shown, right? These really intricate, interesting biomechanical pieces. And here are the spoilers, right, that we saw. So maybe like these first couple of characters were more humanoid. These are the ones we believe to be for Sorcery. So you have these two. We have the Sir Tristan that has been fully revealed, and then these three others, which we don't quite know yet how those will be used. But perhaps this shows the evolution where her style expanded for the game, or her approach expanded for the game. But yet to be seen. Super exciting. Great to meet her.